As Adam said, my name is Blake Tyson. I serve as one of the staff pastors at Mylife.church in Baton Rouge, and our churches have been connected for quite some time. My pastor, Pastor Russ, and Pastor Chad have been friends for a while. Pastor Russ has spoken here a couple times. He's a phenomenal dude. Love him. Pastor Chad has been over in Baton Rouge a couple times. We love him, and so I'm super excited to be here. Your pastor, Pastor Chad, is a fantastic human being. Yeah? Yeah. Hey, out of all the pastors in the world, there's no doubt you've got a good one, right? Everybody agree? He's always been so kind to me. I appreciate him so much. I appreciate this team too. Guys, you guys got it going on, right? Everybody's been so helpful, so honorable. I got the tour today. This place is fantastic. You have an amazing church. I love it. Heard you got life groups going on. Yeah. There's something awesome about life groups. We do it at our church, at our home church, and it's so true. There's nothing better than the group of people that we all walk with in faith together, getting together, communing together, talking together. So it's amazing. You guys are an amazing season. Thanks for having me today and everything that you guys have done for me so far. I want to hop right into the vein of what I feel like God is doing right here. Is that cool? So let's get to it. Try to keep up with what's going on. I try to know what God is trying to speak to us. I try to stay in conversation and communication with what's going on. So I watched last week. So if you weren't here last week, or if it was a long week and you forgot Sunday already, let me catch you up to speed. We're in this series. I'm going to say we. Is that cool? Can I be a part of Life Church today? All right. So we're in this series right now called The Struggle is Real. And it's super applicable. It's very practical, which is good because honestly, so much of our struggle today in culture today is perpetuated, it's pushed forward, it's made worse by our presence online. Tech, social media, Netflix, YouTube, podcast, all of the content, all of these pieces that go into creating a very real struggle for our life. Last week there was an amazing word brought, and one of the things that really stuck out to me was this, and it was spot on. It said, the more we engage with tech, the less we connect as a person. Last week we talked all about joy and how we have to cultivate joy. It's not just something that comes naturally to us. We have to cultivate it. We have to work towards it. We talked about how comparison steals our joy. Whenever we're constantly looking over at what someone else has or what somebody else is doing, we can't be grateful for what God has done for us. When we're no longer comparing ourselves to anything else, we find what God is truly trying to do in us in the process that He's working us through. Because comparison steals our joy, but gratitude amplifies it. It magnifies it. It makes it more, right? So that was all last week. But today, nonetheless, the struggle is real. You know what the struggle is super real with? Driving. Yeah. All right. I'm with my people today. Let's go. It's terrible. You know what's wild to me? They let 16-year-olds drive. Have you guys met some of these 16-year-olds? And you put them behind a vehicle, it's crazy. And here's why it's super crazy. I was 16 at one point. I had a car. Who made that choice? Like, why did you let that happen? Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you today. I know church is not the place to be honest. I get it. We come in, we're perfect. There's no problems. There's no issues. Like, I get it. Church is not the place to be honest, but I want to be honest today. So I'm going to confess something. Can I confess something? As a human, I'm late. Like, I'm just a late person. I'm done making excuses for myself. I'm just a late person. Always have been. Probably always will be. And it was so bad in high school that I would literally run out of the house in socks, pants, and an undershirt. That's it. Everything else was with me in hand. And now I'm driving my way to school, shirt on, belt on, shoes on, blaring music, eating breakfast, texting my friends. I'm terrible. I know. I get it. I'm doing all this, and I'm driving super fast, and I get to school, and guess what? I'm still late. I just can't get it right, man. And so I'm doing all this stuff, and you know, don't lie. You've done it too. You've been distracted while driving. That's what I mean by it's so crazy that we let some of these 16-year-olds drive. What's next? We're going to let 18-year-olds vote? Pfft, it's crazy. Because again, I was one of them. It's crazy. And some of y'all know exactly what I'm talking about because some of you know somebody who's doing those things at 36. You're just a little bit older doing the same stuff. You're driving around. It's so easy to get distracted while we drive. You know, I know. People are eating their McDonald's in the car, driving with their knee, taking curbs at 55 with no hands like it's a roller coaster, correcting kids, putting on makeup. You know. It probably happened this morning. All while driving. We will focus on literally anything but the most important task at hand. You know, handling a 2-ton vehicle at high speeds. We will do anything but that. You ever drive for a period of time and get to where you're going and remember nothing about how you got there? It's like you're doing one of the most dangerous everyday activities and you just totally forget that you even exist. You get to where you're going and they're like, hey, did you hit any traffic over here? And you're like, I don't think I saw any cars. I don't remember a building either. Well, which way did you take? I don't remember. It's so easy to get distracted when we drive. It happens every single day. Listen, we had some family that was coming to hang out with us for Mother's Day in Baton Rouge. They're from Austin. And so they're driving from Austin to Baton Rouge. Now, I want to be very specific about all the directions and everything because they're very specific people. They gave us the exact moment that they were going to be there. They said, we're going to be here at this time. So it's about 6 to 7 hours. They said, we'll be here, boom, at this time. We said, okay, cool. Well, that time starts to come up, and we reach out to them and say, hey, you guys close? Like, where you at? What's going on? And they said, they just started to giggle on the other side of the phone. We said, is everything okay? Like, what's going on? Well, on their way to Baton Rouge, from Austin, they had to drive through Houston, and they stop in Baytown. Anybody ever been to Baytown? Yeah, you guys been to Buc-ee's, right? So you stop at Mecca of all car rides, right there. They stopped right there. They got their stuff, and they go to get back in the car. Well, my wife's mom was texting, and my wife's dad was talking to somebody on the phone, and they get in the car, and they start to drive away, and instead of heading towards Baton Rouge, they head back toward Houston. And for an hour, they drive the opposite direction. So they were on their way to Baton Rouge, but no, they start heading back towards Austin. Why? They got distracted. They got distracted while they were driving. They drove for over an hour in the wrong direction. So their drive changed from 6 to 7 hours, and it was closer to 9, 10 hours, and they finally made it to Baton Rouge. Why? Not because they got stuck in traffic. Not because they had any kind of damaging wreck. No. Simple. Easy. They got distracted. Now, for us, for our life, for our journey of faith, so often it's not the pain that gets us. It's not the wrecks. It's not getting stuck in traffic and the relationships. So often it is distraction. And it's simple. Distraction is simple. It's anything that keeps us from giving our full attention to a task at hand. Or anything that keeps us from doing something meaningful. It's so easy to live distracted lives and not give our full attention to the moment that we're in. We can quickly live half-hearted lives. Now, here's the thing. Oftentimes, the problem is not what we're doing, but it's how we're doing it. It's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. My wife's parents were not driving reckless. They weren't doing something crazy. No. They were just distracted. And too often, we're living a distracted life, meaning that we can get so full of self, we can get so full of what we want and our own desires and our own need for affirmation and our own, you name it, that we can't give anything to anybody else. And it's so easy because all of us carry infinity in our pockets now. That's what I mean by that is your smartphone, your phone can do anything for you, right? Distraction's nothing new. It just seems so much more prevalent these days. However, distraction's dangerous because when you lose your why, you lose your way. When you lose your why, you lose your way. What I mean by that is when you lose the anchor of your life, when you lose the anchor of your relationships, when you lose why you do what you do, it's so quick for us to just stray and wander because we're so distracted away from why we are here. When you lose your why, you lose your way. So can I give you a biblical example today? You're not going to find too many people on an iPhone in the Bible, but we can find people who are distracted, right? We can find people who are distracted. Here's what I mean. Luke 10, 38 through 42, right? It's four quick verses, and we're going to break them down. We're going to look at them, and then we're going to really dig in. So here we go. Now, as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house, okay? And she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted. Everybody say distracted. With much serving. Now I want to pause right here. Martha was distracted, but she wasn't distracted with anything bad. She was distracted by serving. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. You're right. It's a good thing. But like I said, the problem isn't what we're doing. It's how we're doing it. So here we find Martha in the presence of Jesus, in the presence of the Almighty God, the creator of all things. Here she is in the presence of him, but she became distracted by something good. And it costs her something. But what cost? Let's find out. So let's continue on. And she went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell then her to help me. But the Lord answered, Martha, Martha. Reminds me of the Brady Bunch. I don't know if y'all watch the Brady Bunch. Marsha, right? Martha, Martha. Like whenever you're a kid and you get first name real loud, you know you're in trouble. But if you get first and middle name, it's like, oh. If you get first, middle, and last name, run away. It's over at that point, right? So here we are. Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled. Everybody say anxious. Everybody say troubled. About many things. But one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. Here we see the real issue. Martha is throwing this party for Jesus. Literally, it's a party for Jesus. And she gets Jesus there, and they're having a good time. They're kicking it. They're chilling. Jesus begins to teach because that's what Jesus does. So he's teaching to everybody. And while he's teaching, Martha gets so upset that she feels like she's the only one who's doing anything around here. And she goes and she interrupts Jesus' teaching. And she tells him, hey, will you correct my sister? And he replies, hey, girl, you're distracted. You're the one who's missing the point. She had Jesus right there, but she got so distracted by everything else going on. Levi Lusko said it this way. He said, if the things we're doing for God aren't fueled from time spent with God, then eventually we begin to think that we're God. If the things we're doing for God aren't fueled from time spent with God, we eventually begin to think that we are God. And we see it in Martha. We see it right there. She is doing something for Jesus, for the party. This is Jesus' moment. And she's doing something for him. She's like, hey, I'm over here like cleaning the dishes. Nobody gonna help me? She's doing something good for Jesus. But she's missing the point. And so she's doing something good, but it's not fueled from her time spent with Jesus. And so now she goes to Jesus and tells him to correct her sister. Hey, Jesus, get it together. Tell her what's up. It's like, whoa. Now, our lives can be so busy and we can become so distracted that what we do for him doesn't come from time spent with him. And then we try to become him. Now, that's just a side note. This is what I want us to really dig into for a second. Jesus looked at this distracted Martha and tells her that she is anxious and troubled. Can I tell you today that distraction leads to anxiety? It's right there. Jesus said it himself. He told Martha, you're distracted, and because you're distracted, you're anxious and troubled. And because you're anxious and troubled, you're missing the point. 1,617. That's the number. That's the average times a person will touch their phone per day, which is bananas, especially when you realize there's only 1,140 minutes in a day. We are touching our phones more than there are minutes in the day. It leads to a heart that is distracted. In today's society, there are more TVs in a home than humans on average. The average screen time for an adult, if you're an adult, raise your hand. Don't even lie. Come on, raise your hand. Yeah. I don't want to be an adult. Well, you are, right? The average screen time for us in here is 8.5 hours per day. Now, it may not be on your phone. It may be in front of a TV, in front of a computer. Any time that you are in front of a screen, it counts, and it adds up. 4.5 hours on your phone, 4 hours on TV. Now, some of you get those little notifications every week. Sometimes it happens on a Sunday, and you look down and you see your average screen time. You're like, oh, yeah, I kill 4.5 hours every week. That's not a good thing. Like, it's not a good thing. Now, what that tells me is if we spend 8.5 hours, maybe more, in front of a screen, distraction is a full-time job. So often we can spend as much time escaping the reality that we are in that it becomes a full-time job. Now, here's what the science will also tell us. It takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get back full force into what you are working on after you have been distracted from something. Full force. Like you can be distracted and you come back and you're like, and you start typing again. But you come back and it's like, okay, what was my thought? Where was I going? You had this train of thought, and once that becomes derailed, it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get back to where we go. Now, some of us never get anything done because we don't wait 23 minutes before we check something again. It's like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, podcast, whatever. It's all there in our pocket. It is infinity in our pocket. A study was done before the pandemic last year, okay? So it was done in 2020, but before everything went off the rails. And it stated this: the average American adult will spend 44 years of their life in front of a screen. 44 years of their life. It's wild. And it leads to distraction. And distraction leads to anxiety and trouble. There's an actual medical condition, and it's called phantom vibration syndrome. And I would bet that every one of us has experienced it at some point. It's like whenever you have your phone in your pocket and you think that it vibrates and you go to reach and you look at it and you realize you're just crazy. Like you think your phone's going off, but it's not. Phantom vibration syndrome. We go to look at our phone. We go to check. We go to look for these certain things only to find out that they're not there. Our attention span is shrinking, but our time on our devices is growing. It's distracting us and it's killing us, but we love it. Why? Because some of the smartest people in the world are designing this stuff. Can I give you a little more science? This one's super interesting. There was a study done with pigeons, and there was a lever that they put in their cage. And the pigeon would come over, and every time that they hit the lever, they would get some food. And they saw it. Every time, boom, 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 every time. And then the pigeons began to get, unfazed by it. They were unfazed by it because they knew every time they would go over there, they would get something. They would win something. You'd get that shot of dopamine. You win something. Well, they began to switch up the pattern. Now, they go over there and you hit it, and you don't know if you're going to get it. You don't know if you're going to win something. You don't know if you're going to get a treat or whatever. And so here's what happened to the pigeons. These are birds. They go over there, boom, and they hit it and they don't get anything. They became full-fledged addicts to this lever, constantly trying to push it to see, is this the time? Is this the time? Is this the time? And there's these people, their job is literally this. It's called attention engineers. And they're designing these apps that we're on simply to garner your attention. And that's why sometimes you can go on Facebook and you won't get a little red dot. But then the next time you may go and you will get a little red dot. They're clustering the notifications. Why? Because inside your brain you go, is this the time that I get one? Is this the time that somebody tags me? Is this the time? Is this the time? Is this the time? And so they've taken this study done on pigeons, and they're using that same research for us. Because we crave this immediate affirmation. We crave this shot of dopamine we get anytime that somebody tags us. We just feel so good. Oh, I call it the McDonald's effect. Because we carry infinity in our pockets, we can eat whenever we want. We can learn whatever we want, whenever we want. No question of curiosity has to be waited upon. We can Google anything right now. We can be entertained at a moment's notice. There is no opportunity for boredom. We can connect with anybody, anywhere, because we hate to wait. And that right there is causing our brains to become distracted. Now, Jesus saw that very same thing in Martha, and he sees it in you and me. When we are constantly giving ourselves over, whatever we give ourselves over to, it causes us to suffer with anxiety and trouble, and it's causing us to miss the point. Now, I've said all that to say this right here. Here's the whole point of the sermon. If you've tuned me out up to this point, no problem. Here we go. Did you catch what suffered the most from Martha because of her distraction? Did you catch it? It was her relationships. Just like our relationships suffer when we're at the dinner table and everyone's on their phones. When we're in the car and we're riding around but everyone has their own tablet. We're missing incredible opportunities and valuable moments to truly connect with the people around us. Why? Because we are distracted. When we've all been relegated to surface level relationships because there's no depth, because we don't have time to connect with anybody due to constant content consumption. It drains us. This is why life groups are so important. They provide opportunities to truly connect with people who are walking in the same direction as you. Life groups are massive opportunities for us to do away with surface level relationships and truly get real and get deep in what's going on in our lives. But we can't do that when we're constantly staring at a screen. And here's the real problem. We have surface level relationships with Jesus. Because all we're doing is we're going to him and we're just telling him what we need. And we're not truly spending any time with him. Just like Martha went to Jesus and said, hey, I need you to do this, and not spending any time with him. How often will our prayers go from, God, I love you, you're amazing, to so quickly, hey, God, I need you to do this for me right now. I need you to be here for me right now, because what we're doing is not coming out of time spent with Jesus. We end up with this surface level relationship. I've got a 4-month-old son. His name's Thatcher, and he's nursing right now. And listen, he can't enjoy time with his mom because he always wants something from her. He can't enjoy spending time with his mom and laugh and play because anytime she comes around, he knows what's up. Time to eat. Any time that she gets around. Listen, we do the same thing with Jesus. We laugh at that, but we do the same thing with Jesus. We can't enjoy spending time with him because we only want things from him. Just like Martha. Her relationship with Jesus and her relationship with her sister all suffered from her distraction because it led her to anxiety and trouble. When we're so distracted from when we lose our why, we lose our way. So let me ask you this today. What relationship in your life is suffering right now due to distraction? You may not even be distracted by something bad or sinful or awful. It may not be a huge sinful secret that you got in your closet, but it may be something innocent that keeps you from being where you need to be. You can work anywhere at any time. Does that distraction cause your family relationship to suffer? Does social media and its constant pull cause you to really miss out on true friendships and relationships? So constantly having to put up this wall, this barrier of this is who I am, this perfect perception of what I am, and we project this idea out there, but inside we're dying, we're hurting, we're broken. But we can't let anybody know because Instagram is good. We're losing ourselves in today's society. When life gets tough and it's quick to find an avenue of escape, that we dismiss our relationship with God altogether. Husbands, does the draw to a late night distraction on the internet cause your marriage to suffer? Wives, does the ability to compare your life to anyone on the planet right now cause your relationship with your husband to suffer? With the ability to escape reality at any moment right now through movies, TV, gaming, podcasts, audiobooks, you name it, we can be distracted at any point in time. Does it cause your relationship with God to suffer? Are we so distracted? Are we so anxious and so troubled that our relationships are dying right before us? Martha, she got distracted, and it led to anxiety and trouble. Her relationship suffered. Listen, she had the creator of the world in her home. He was there. Jesus, God of everything, the one who died for the sins of mankind, was in her home. And she was so distracted by everything else. She was so distracted by everything going on around her. She missed the point. And listen, it caused her to be resentful to the ones that were closest to her. Distraction leads to anxiety, and it leads to trouble. When we become so distracted that we've got no time for Jesus, no other relationship stands a chance. Our relationships will crumble before our eyes because, again, if what we're doing for God, if our relationships aren't birthed out of time spent with God, then we begin to think that we are God. We begin to think that everything's here to serve me. Everything's here to help me. Everything is here for me, and that's not the case. Life Church, let me tell you, Jesus is here in this room, in this house, right now. Don't be distracted. Don't let this moment pass you by. So if you would just stand with me. And let me ask you this. How distracted are you today? How distracted have you been this week? How distracted have you been this month? Listen, it's been a very rough, very difficult 18 months. And no one would argue about that. It's been a very difficult 18 months. It's been tough. And what we've done is instead of trying to grind through and make things better, we opt out for the easy route and find a way of distraction. Now listen, this isn't a sermon about technology. Don't delete your social media accounts. Don't cancel your Disney Plus subscription. Don't do that. Because again, it's not what we're doing. It's how we're doing it. It's not the relationships that we're in. It's how we're doing it. The problem is not what we're doing. It's how. So what do we do? Okay, Blake, you've been up here for 30 minutes now. What do we do? How do we change it? How do we fix it? I'm not going to lie to you. There's no easy fix. But every day, every moment, we have to make the decision to be present. Everybody say, be present. We make the decision to be in the moment that I'm in. I'm here with the people that I'm with. I'm at the job that I'm at. And you may not like the job that you're at, but I'm gonna grind this thing out. I'm gonna be present. I'm not gonna be distracted. I'm not gonna go anywhere. Students, it's so quick to be with your family and then want to be gone. I get it. Be present in that moment. Scripture says this, Psalms 46:10. It's not on the screen. This is just quick. Be still and know that I am God. Here's the sticking point of that scripture, though. Be still. Don't let that hand slide in that pocket to find that phone. We'll get to lunch. But instead, right now, we're gonna be still and we're gonna be engaged. We're gonna be present in this moment and all moments. And we're gonna know that there's nothing like the God that we serve. And as we begin to re-engage with God, as we begin to re-engage and be present in this moment, He begins to mend our hearts. All that anxiety and trouble, He begins to bring that to something that's useful. He begins to relieve all that anxiety, all of that stress. That's all birthed out of distraction. He mends that. And when we're present in a moment with Jesus, He begins to heal our relationships. When we're not thinking about something else and wanting to check our phones, He brings everything back. And when we've lost our why, He brings us back to it so we can find our way. So don't let this moment pass you by. Don't let right now be a thing that comes and goes. Instead, be present, be fully engaged in what God is trying to do in your life right now. What is He trying to speak to you right now? Are your relationships suffering right now because of this constant pull to escape reality? I want to pray over us. And then we're going to go back into worship. But if you're here today and you know that you've been living a life of distraction, your heart's distracted, your mind's distracted, you've been anxious and you've been troubled, there's a team of people who are here and they want to pray with you. And in just a second, they're going to be where they need to be. And you can have this opportunity to be engaged with someone else. And they could pray for you. Or maybe distraction has led to some relationship issues. And maybe you and God are on the outs. Because for so long we've tried to be Him. Because we haven't spent time with Him. Maybe your relationships with your family are struggling right now because of a life of distraction. These people want to pray with you. So if you would just close your eyes and bow your heads, I want to pray over us before we go into our final song. God, we just thank you for this moment that we're not going to rush by, that we're going to be fully engaged in, Lord. We thank you for it. We thank you for this opportunity to be in your presence, God. We thank you that you have entered this house. And while Martha was doing something good, she missed the point. God, we don't want to miss the point right now. The creator of all things, the name above every name, you are here right now, Lord. And I pray over every heart. And I pray over everyone in this room, God. Wherever we find ourselves, distracted, anxious, troubled, whatever it is, Lord, we know that you are the answer. And so we will be still. And we will know that you are God. We just love you.